Well, our correspondent Elena Casas joins us now from Calais. Welcome, Elena. This certainly is a story that has galvanised a lot of attention around the world. But as you reported, we've got this ruling on the fate of half the jungle, having been delayed by, what, a day or two perhaps? When do you think they will make the ruling, and will the French authorities use force to remove the refugees?
Well, certainly not for the moment, given that they're legally blocked by the judge from actually moving police or security services into the camp to start trying to demolish part of the cabins that you see behind the hill behind me. We are expecting a ruling, though, from the judge either today or tomorrow, so by the end of Thursday French time, which will either say that yes, the state is right, they do have a right to demolish part of these cabins, and then we are expecting to see the bulldozers move in. Perhaps not straight away, we might get a kind of police offensive trying to move people out in a slightly more peaceful way before they actually start the demolition. Or alternatively, the judge could decide that yes, it is an attack on these people's human rights to try and demolish part of what's known as the jungle, and the state cannot go ahead and do so. Now, a number of the people living here have already decided to make their own way out, as they are so concerned about a possible demolition. Some people yesterday were telling me that they're already packing their things and heading for an alternative camp because they're so concerned that bulldozers could be coming in here. And indeed, the authorities in neighbouring Belgium, which is just 30 miles down the road from this camp, have actually established passport controls on that border overnight in defiance of the Schengen passport control free zone, because they're so concerned that some of the 6,000 or so people living here might attempt to make their way down the coast to a camp in Belgium. And of course, nobody is arguing that this is the ideal situation for these migrants and refugees to be living in. Even the NGOs who brought this court case obviously would rather have them living in better conditions than in a refugee camp. But they say the French state just hasn't provided enough alternative accommodation for them to move into, and at the moment they have no other alternative.
Elena, that's interesting to get all this information. I don't know whether I'd be standing where you are at the moment, because that bulldozer came pretty close to you just a few seconds ago, but we did hear most of what you said. How are the living conditions there? We've seen some of the stories of people who are running cafes there. They seem to have some kind of a sense of permanency or wanting to stay. How many people are there actually there? And at the moment, do they have enough food and water?
Well, up until recently, the Calais authorities have tolerated this camp being established in a fairly permanent fashion. And as you saw in the piece, people mostly aren't living in tents in the mud here anymore. They're living in heated cabins, where at least they're protected from the weather, which have been built by charities, mostly thanks to public donations from ordinary volunteers. There are shops, there are restaurants, there's a school, there's a youth centre, there's a church, there's a mosque. And I can hear the bulldozer coming back behind me now, so you can certainly see that they are getting ready to start doing some demolition on this site, even though they're not legally allowed to do so yet. There are perhaps about 6,000 people living in this entire camp, so at the moment the authorities only want to demolish half of it, and as you heard in my piece, the population of that is very much a point of dispute. The authorities say there are less than 1,000 people living in the part that they would like to bulldoze, whereas charity groups have counted about 3,400, of which they say 440 are unaccompanied children. And what really worries them about this potential demolition is that they would lose track of these people. There's not enough official accommodation for the French state to move them into, and as a result they're worried that especially these unaccompanied teenagers will just go wandering off into the French countryside. They'll set up alternative makeshift camps where they won't have the facilities that they do here, where at least there is a clinic to provide basic medical care and people do have access to food and water, whereas in a more makeshift camp, if this one is demolished, of course that wouldn't be the case.
All right, Helena, many thanks indeed, and thank you for staying with us with that bulldozer still very, very close. But if I was you, I would clear out of there pretty quickly. Elena Casas there reporting from Calais.